Something I've noticed in our church that I wonder if you have an inside scoop on is that there's a lot of what appears to be like turnover when it comes to the staff of the church, like the people who work for headquarters, or just kind of like shuffling around. People get shuffled around a lot, and it seems often confusing because it's like, we're just getting the flow of things, and then this person is plucked out of this community and plopped into another, or they're let go and someone else is hired who is potentially better, or maybe has no idea what they're doing.
Do you mean like leadership, or do you mean staff? Because I think there's a distinction there.
Yeah, I think just in general, like leadership for sure. There's definitely a lot of turnover with the leadership. For example, I don't know off the top of my head, Damian Dunkley being replaced with Dr. Young, and then like a week later being replaced with President Naukimi. So it's like, wow, that was fast. And then it's like, did I mishear that Dr. Young became president, or was that a miscommunication? Like, what happened there?
Yeah, so I think that, our movement has a living Messiah, and that's always going to be really challenging. You can't always know exactly what the will of God is. And so when it comes to leadership specifically, I would say that shuffling around comes with the Spirit, and there has to be a certain level of faith involved in really understanding what's happening, and trust too. I mean, faith is ultimately trust, right? And, just from my observation, so like when I first joined headquarters, Dr. Balcom was the president. And then I think a year and a half into it, he was then moved to Europe, and then it was Reverend Busing, right? And then a year after Reverend Busing, then it was Damian Dunkley, who interestingly, Damian actually hired me. So it was really interesting to watch that all from the inside. But I would say that each leader brings something unique to the table. And it's not so much trying to understand why, it's not so much trying to understand like, what is the person who's moving these people around doing, but really looking more towards what is it that that leader brings to the table that we need right now in our movement, So like, just as an example, Dr. Balcom, he's very kind of, in his leadership style, I'd say he's a little more alpha male type, all right, everybody, we're going to do this. Everybody, let's, really gather together. Okay, we're going to do this, this tour of all of the holy grounds in America. We're going to like really rally together, right? And I think at the time in our movement, we really needed that, especially in America after, the whole fiasco that happened just before that, right? With Love and Life and the whole implosion, right? And people were like, what is going on? And what are we doing? And so they kind of needed somebody to just stand up and be like, okay, let's rally together and do something. And then, right after that, on the back of that, mobilizing is tiring, right? It's exhausting. You're kind of like, okay, another one. Oh man. And right off of the back of that comes in Reverend Busing. And Reverend Busing he's a softer kind of personality. He's very kind of, I was joking with my dad and I was like, well, Reverend Busing and Marjorie Busing are like, George Bush Sr. and his wife. Everybody thinks they're kind of soft-spoken and like, like really soft, but there is a strength to them that they kind of felt like the nation's grandparents, they're kind of like your grandma and your grandpa. And they come in with a very caring spirit. They want to know how you're doing personally. They want to like spend time with each and every person and really care for them. And then, and then right off of the back of that, then you have Damien who comes in. And my observation of Damien is a whole story in and of itself. But I I think that when they bring new leadership in, they don't always, we're still working out how best to announce things, and there's still a process of education that is taking place with the leadership also, in terms of educating them on public relations and perception and how to do things in a more professional manner. Um, so when Dr. Young came in, it wasn't actually that he was the president. He's actually the continental director. And then now Kimi was brought up to fill in that president's position.
Okay.